It's Inauguration Day. We'll look at the latest security measures and how this year's ceremony will look a lot different. Plus, more details have been released in an Arcadia, Kansas death investigation and why some Northeast Oklahoma residents are struggling to get the COVID vaccine.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, Neosho Wrestling aims to stay undefeated on homecoming night against Carthage. We'll have highlights. And yesterday was President Donald Trump's last full day in office. For our morning talker, we're asking how you think history will remember the presidency of Donald Trump. You can participate in our Insta poll at KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
It is a cool one out there from the Freeman Health System Sky Camera in Joplin. 29 degrees is where we stand. The humidity, it's going to be a dry one today. Only at 72%. We're used to usually about 80-90% at this time of the morning. Skywatch Storm Tracker, almost a exact same pattern that we had yesterday, except our cloud cover not going to be as prolonged as what it was on Tuesday. Let's go 29 also in Neosho, 26 in Parsons and Pittsburgh, and 27 in Lamar and Nevada. Now the wind going to shift on us once again. It'll just keep on spinning around until it comes in from the south. That's why we'll have some warmer temperatures as we eyeball that precipitation that's now down in central Texas, but looks like it really wants to stay to the south of us. Our weather trend on this Wednesday is going to lift us up into the 50s, not too bad at all. And on the bottom of our screen, that's what we look for tonight into Thursday morning, just skirting our southernmost counties. So the rain's going to stay south of I-44 and not going to be widespread at all. And then we'll have the 50s again by the time we get into Thursday. Now, Friday and Saturday, cooling back down to the 40s, but there we go, right back at it for Sunday into the 50s. Then we look at a little rain-snow mix and some rain on Monday and Tuesday, respectively.
All right. I have 52 today. I'll take that. That's for sure.
It's cool.
It's cold out there right now.
Yeah, it is. It's because that wind's going to pick up. It's going to be a whole lot windier than what it was yesterday.
That's no fun. All right, we'll be ready for it. Thanks, Michael. Unprecedented security is in place in Washington, D.C. for today's inauguration. Shortly before noon, Joe Biden will be sworn in as the nation's 46th president, right after Kamala Harris makes history as the country's first ever female vice president. Unlike past inaugurations, the National Mall will mostly be empty for today's ceremony, due in part to security concerns following the assault on the Capitol. A Kansas City, Missouri musician will perform at a virtual ball for President-elect Biden's inauguration. As Jackson Kurtz reports, he was selected because of a cause that's near and dear to his heart.
Of course I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Save the planet, we gon' save the planet. But then the other part of me is like, yeah, it's about time.
Glowing with energy.
So, it's a lot of firsts, bro.
They acting like we from another planet Mars.
Kansas City artist A.Y. Young has been performing in the metro and around the world for years, showcasing a cause he deeply cares about.
I do concerts, fully powered by renewable energy. Because I got the plan to like save the world,
Which has led him to be featured in the Clean Energy for America inaugural ball as part of the Biden inauguration events on Wednesday.
I'm introducing Akon to stage, which is cool, so I get to perform and then he's next, and that's huge for me. Biden, Kamala, whoever cares about clean energy, because for me it's not a political thing.
Let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. His performances and leadership has attracted the attention of the United Nations, being named a young leader.
I'm one of the 17 young leaders of the world, and I'm the only young leader, of the 17 from the U.S.
And when the show's over, he's thinking ahead on how to further his message and gain the support from the city he loves.
How can we highlight and bring people together from the heart of the nation under a symbol of love and unity and not divisiveness?
You can buy a ticket to stream the virtual ball online. The cost is $100. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation released new details on a death investigation out of Arcadia, Kansas. On January 13th, Crawford County deputies received a tip about a body at the Arcadia house. That body, 37-year-old Nicholas Carrillo. When deputies found a body on the property, Carrillo ran. He was found 2 days later on January 15th and arrested on drug charges. Authorities say the body, though, belongs to Derek Yule of Kansas City, Missouri, who was reported missing, and that the death happened at a hotel in Kansas City. Carrillo is now charged with criminal desecration of a body. A Veneta, Oklahoma man is charged with domestic assault after police say he intentionally drove his car off the road with his family inside. 35-year-old Kevin Heiben is charged with 4 counts of first-degree domestic assault. According to the Missouri Highway Patrol, on January 6th, Heiben, his wife, and 3 kids were in a car on Jute Road, 5 miles north of Seneca. Authorities say Heiben then deliberately drove the vehicle off the road and into a tree, injuring everyone inside, some of them seriously. The Joplin Historic Preservation Commission met yesterday to discuss the status of projects around the city. That includes plans for the future of Memorial Hall. The commission did not determine anything at this time, but scheduled a final public meeting for May 6th. Also discussed was a project to put up signs at the city's cemeteries, giving them some history.
I think it's great. I think that, often when people visit cemeteries, those were places that they were often considered like the first public parks before we really had a park system. So I think it's really good that we have that information there and available for people.
Cemetery signs are being put up now that the cemeteries are designated as historic sites. It's 5:07.
Had past couple of days, but at least it moves in from the south, so that's going to feed us warmer temperatures. Clouds build after a pretty clean start, able to make it up into the 50s, and we'll get some southerly gusts of 30 miles per hour. Any chance for rain is going to stay in our southernmost counties, south of I-44, as it jots through Oklahoma and Arkansas, and we get to go back-to-back days in the 50s before another cold front hits us for the end of the work week.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the Pittsburgh State women are on a winning streak right now with 2 big games coming up this week. Why it's important for the Gorillas to be playing their best. Plus, we break down why some Oklahoma residents are having trouble getting appointments for coronavirus vaccines and what President Trump is doing in his last few hours in the White House. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
The defending state champion, Neosho Wildcats, 9-0 to start the wrestling season. Last night, homecoming for the Wildcats as they hosted the Carthage Tigers. Now, Carthage comes into the night with a 15-4 dual record. Bunch of great matches. How about 120 pounds? Neosho's Landon Kivett down 10-9 in the third. Comes up with the takedown. Kivett with the 11-10 decision. 138 pounds. Carthage with an exciting finish. Loudest of the night, Eli Sneed. Final seconds of the third. How you gonna finish it? Right before the buzzer. Sneed with a 5-4 decision. Neosho able to close it out though. 160 pounds. Trent Neese wins by foul in about 5 minutes. And then the 170 pounds, 3-time state champ Caden Ouch wins by fall early in the second period. Neosho goes to 10-0, beats Carthage 57-10. Last night was the first night of the boys bracket at the Southeast Lancer Classic. In the first round, a couple of teams out of Joplin squaring off. McCully on the floor against College Heights. College Heights would open up the game hot. Boom. That's 30 points for that dude right there, Miller Long. Later in the quarter, pass to Curtis Davenport. He knocks down the 3. College Heights up 4. Finish it off. Cougars up 17-8. Now McCully looking for an answer. Rocco Bazzano Joseph gets a 3-pointer himself, but the Warriors trail by 13 at the half. Third quarter, Daniel Wagner layup through traffic. Warriors still down 14, and on the heels of Miller Long's game-high 30 points, College Heights wins it 66-53. Pittsburgh State women on a roll right now. Winners of 7 straight games. Got 2 big games coming up this week. Perfect time for the Gorillas to be playing their best. Our own sports director, Jacob Leonard, with more on Amanda David's crew.
The Pittsburgh State women's basketball team is one of the hottest in the MIAA right now, posting 7 straight wins.
Winning is fun, and when we were losing, it wasn't too fun, but we came and put it all together. The biggest key is our defense. For now, in the last few games, we went with a more defensive approach, and we actually have had defense, and so I think they're really all in all, like, if we can just keep that up, we should be fine.
The Gorillas are hot at the right time, with the undefeated Nebraska Kearney Lopers coming to town on Thursday.
They're good, yeah, but I mean, we are too, so we're very, very excited for this matchup.
They're holding teams to less than 60 points the last couple games, 35 and 34. We're going to have to be really sharp offensively, and then we're going to have to continue to put together some defense that we can get some stops.
We've been up there and ended up winning the past 2 years, so I know that they're hungry for one, but I mean, I feel like we're hungrier.
Pitt State is getting a boost from junior guard Tristan Gegg. Gegg is 5th in the MIAA in scoring and scored 24 against Washburn Saturday, including 8 in overtime.
The Washburn game in particular, points were hard to come by. To have Tristan step up in those moments, in those defining moments when we need her, that's what you want your players to do.
I would say I'm pretty confident. I think our whole team is, to be honest, but I just know that Coach David believes in me, my teammates believe in me, and when you are confident, it shows, and just getting in the gym more, what I've been doing, so it's helped a lot.
Junior forward Julia Johnson has also come on strong, averaging 12 points and 7 boards the last 4 games.
Way more comfortable. I have a lot more confidence, and it's fun. Once I gained this confidence, I'm having fun with the game, and I'm just playing and helping my team. Just the process has paid off for her, and then she's made some really big plays to help her confidence here lately, and she's in the gym a lot. She's a self-made player.
While they hope to make it 8 straight on Thursday, the Gorillas have found their groove and found out what they can be.
I think our glue is really good right now, and I think that's something we didn't have before, and that takes a lot of kids playing different roles that maybe they didn't realize that was going to be their role, but as we've started to win, it's been a lot more fun, and people are accepting different roles and stepping up at different times.
Pitt State plays Nebraska Kearney on Thursday, then turns around, hosts Fort Hays State on Saturday. Sarah Thomas is going to make history next month as the first woman to officiate on the field at a Super Bowl. The NFL yesterday announcing the officiating crew for Super Bowl 55. Thomas was hired as the first full-time female official in NFL history back in 2015. She made her regular season debut when the Houston Texans hosted the Kansas City Chiefs in September. You can watch Sarah Thomas and Super Bowl 55 right here on KOAM coming up February 7th. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, why China is receiving international criticism for its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. And a check of our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Already transitioning into that latter third of January. And from the Freeman Health System Sky Camera, I tell you what, 29 degrees on a January morning. Yeah, it's a little chilly, but that's hard to beat. We've yet to get swamped by a huge cold front or anything like that. It's taken us down to single digits, never mind below 0. A little heavy cloud cover down to the south right there. Everybody else remains on the clear side. 27 in Lamar, 25 in Miami, 21 right now in Iola. We're going to see the winds shift all the way around clockwise, eventually moving in from the south. A little bit windier than what we've had last couple of days, but at the same point in time, that will feed us some nice warm temperatures that are going to put us into the 50s. We'll be about 5-6 degrees above normal for this time of year, with sunshine to begin with, and then some growing clouds here as we progress through the day. Now, on Future Track, bottom of your screen, a little precip comes out of Texas up through Oklahoma right there, but it really wants to stay south of us. If we see any rain, it's going to be our far southern counties south of I-44, and then that will move toward the Mississippi, and we'll be able to roll back-to-back days of temperatures up into the 50s before we're back down in the 40s headed into the weekend. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, President Trump using his last hours in the White House to grant clemency to a wide range of people, including some on his inner circle. Bofta Yamam has the latest from D.C.
Just after midnight on President Trump's last day in office, the White House announced he had issued 73 pardons and commuted the sentences of 70 other federal offenders.
Every day we get stronger and they get weaker.
The most prominent name on the list is former White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon. Bannon is accused of defrauding donors in an effort to build a private wall along the Mexican border. His trial was due to begin in May. 2 rappers also made the cut. Lil Wayne was pardoned. He faced a prison sentence of up to 10 years for possession of a firearm and ammunition by a convicted felon. And Kodak Black was sentenced to 46 months in federal prison for making a false statement in order to buy a firearm. That sentence has been commuted. USA! Despite pleas by some of the alleged Capitol rioters,
I think that we all deserve a pardon.
None were granted that request. Nor was Joe Exotic, despite fans in a stretch limo waiting outside the Federal Medical Center in Texas, where he's being held. The Tiger King was not let out of a 22-year sentence for plotting the murder of zookeeper rival Carol Baskin.
He's been in jail for 2.5 years. He's innocent.
Also notably not on the list, no family members, no Rudy Giuliani, the president's attorney, and despite once claiming the absolute right to pardon himself, the president apparently decided against it. Bofta Imam, CBS News, Washington.
President Trump has the authority to continue issuing pardons until his term ends at noon today. Our question on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our Insta poll: how you think history will remember the presidency of Donald J. Trump? Let us know what you have to say about it and log on KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. We'll get to your results. Healthwatch next.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, some Oklahoma residents are having trouble getting appointments for coronavirus vaccines as the state continues to see low supply. KOAM's Zach Dodge has what the state is doing to create more appointments and why things might not change for a while as supply remains limited.
After months of waiting, many residents across Oklahoma are eager to get their COVID-19 vaccine. And right now, many healthcare providers, first responders, and residents 65 and older are eligible to get one. The main way for them to do that is on the state's new online vaccine portal. But several Ottawa County residents that are trying to get their second doses say they can't get an appointment, some of them being at the beginning of February. Deputy Commissioner Reed with the State Department of Health says they're working only a week ahead and continue to add more appointments all the time.
We are working on getting second dose appointments put into the system further out. That will make it easier for somebody to go in and get their second dose appointment further out into the future, which should eliminate a lot of those issues.
Reed explains everything right now depends on their supply allocation. At this point, he had hoped they would be able to open up more appointments at hospitals and pharmacies, but that won't happen until they have a much higher rate of vaccines coming into the state.
As of last week, we were under the impression that 50% of our doses were physically being stockpiled in preparation for the need for second doses, and that was what was being released to us. That was not the case. So again, we're frustrated waiting on that information to really know what's ahead of us.
So for now, the state's allocation has remained around the same. The Department of Health plans to use many of the doses they receive to make sure residents get booster shots as soon as possible.
So I don't want people to be concerned that they're not going to get their second dose right now. We are prioritizing these second doses based off of vaccine that's coming into the state.
Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Officials with the State Department of Health over Ottawa County say more appointments will be made between today and tomorrow. So the best way to know when appointments are available is to follow the Ottawa County Health Department's Facebook page. A new study finds people who take the drug vermectin immediately following a mild coronavirus diagnosis have a smaller viral load and shorter duration of symptoms. Spanish researchers say the FDA-approved drug used to treat head lice and tropical diseases could help reduce viral transmission of COVID-19. A study of over 200,000 young people with mood disorders finds those who use marijuana are at higher risk of suicide and self-harm. Researchers from Ohio State University say cannabis use can worsen mood disorder symptoms and make treatment more difficult. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Nice clear start, especially into the central and northern portions of the 4 states. A little bit of clouds down to the south, and those clouds are actually going to build over us. It's going to be a little bit windy coming in from the south, gusts 30 miles an hour, but still able to make it up into the 50s today and tomorrow. Rain south of I-44 overnight. More KOAM Morning News right after this.
It's Inauguration Day. We'll look at the latest security measures and how this year's ceremony will look a lot different. Plus, more details have been released in an Arcadia, Kansas death investigation and why some Northeast Oklahoma residents are struggling to get the COVID vaccine.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour for our Morning Talker, we're asking how you think history will remember the presidency of Donald Trump. And a couple of pooches will be calling 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue home after the inauguration of Joe Biden. We'll give you a brief history of presidential pets. But first, a check on your forecast.
From the Freeman Health System Sky Camera in Joplin, we sit at 29 degrees. It is cool outside, and that wind is going to increase, only coming in at 3 miles per hour. Wait until this afternoon. Got clouds down to the south, central northern portion of the 4 states remaining clear, and we will be on the dry side pretty much all day long. 29 in Carthage, 26 in Indy, and 25 in both Fort Scott and Nevada. Here's the wind. Watch it flip around like clockwork. That's going to mean we're going to make it up into the 50s with some of those warmer southwest temps. But also, too, we got to put up with those gusts of 30 miles per hour. Now, as far as what Future Track has, bottom of your screen, there we go. We get skirted by just some light rain late tonight into Thursday morning. The majority of it is actually going to stay to the south of our highlighted counties. Anything we do see is going to be south of I-44. Back into the 50s on Thursday, then an additional cold front takes us back down into the 40s for Friday and Saturday.
All right. I'm liking the warm temperatures, but not liking the fact we might have wind.
Key this morning, able to avoid patchy fog. That's what we're watching right now. I'm watching to see if this is going to set in on us. So far, so good.
Be careful. All right, thanks, Michael. Unprecedented security is in place in Washington, D.C. for today's inauguration. Shortly before noon, Joe Biden will be sworn in as the nation's 46th president, right after Kamala Harris makes history as the country's first ever female vice president. Unlike past inaugurations, the National Mall will be mostly empty for today's ceremony, due in part to security concerns following the assault on the Capitol. Kansas is closing the Capitol complex today because of Inauguration Day. Governor Laura Kelly says it's out of an abundance of caution after the FBI warned of possible armed protest in all 50 state capitals. In the wake of her announcement, Kansas Supreme Court Chief Justice Marla Luckert and a spokesperson for Secretary of State Scott Schwab said their offices would follow suit. The State House will remain open to those with specific business in the building, but closed to the public. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation released new details on a death investigation out of Arcadia, Kansas. On January 13th, Crawford County deputies received a tip about a body at the Arcadia home of 37-year-old Nicholas Carrillo. When deputies found a body on the property, Carrillo ran. He was found 2 days later on January 15th and arrested on drug charges. Authorities say the body belongs to Derek Ewell of Kansas City, Missouri, who was reported missing and that the death happened at a hotel in Kansas City. Carrillo is now charged with criminal desecration of a body. A Veneta, Oklahoma man is charged with domestic assault after police say he intentionally drove his car off the road with his family inside. 35-year-old Kevin Hyben is charged with 4 counts of first-degree domestic assault, according to the Missouri Highway Patrol. On January 6th, Hyben, his wife, and 3 kids were in a car on Jute Road, 5 miles north of Seneca. Authorities say Hyben then deliberately drove the vehicle off the road and into a tree, injuring everyone inside, some of them seriously. People in Missouri can take advantage of free COVID-19 testing in several counties, including Jasper. The only requirement is that you are a Missouri resident, but you don't have to be a resident of Jasper County. We've provided a link to the online registration on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. February is Black History Month, and U.S. Cellular is getting kids ready with an art contest. This started yesterday when the Boys and Girls Club of Southwest Missouri members can create artwork recognizing influential Black men and women from around the globe. Organizers say they don't just want the kids to draw the figures, but understand what made them iconic.
It actually has a readout on it of everything that they've accomplished in their lives. So the staff is actually showing them their pictures, and they're getting them involved with that as well, whether it's reading it off to them or them reading it themselves.
Finalists will be chosen, and anyone 18 and older can vote for their favorite artwork online in February. 4 decades after she lost it, a Missouri woman has been reunited with a keepsake that she thought was gone forever. And it's all thanks to a stranger in another state. Steve Harris has more.
He was on the 8th hole when Jackie Shower's husband got the call.
And he answers it, and it's a gentleman that came from San Antonio, Texas, a gentleman we do not know. And he asks if he knows a woman, and he uses my maiden name.
So Jackie and her husband Steve were skeptical. What did this guy on the phone want from them? Well, turns out it's what he wanted to give them. See, he'd found a class ring on eBay, Jackie's class ring.
Now, this is a ring I had lost in 1979. This ring is from Morton East High School in Cicero, Illinois.
So how did it end up in San Antonio? Well, for that answer, you got to meet the guy who made the phone call. Retired school teacher Richard Escobedo. His class ring was stolen in 1987.
I'd go to pawn shops, antique stores, anywhere where things were being resold. I would always look for my class ring, and I would never find it. But I would see other class rings, and I would see them, and I would say, like, man, if the owner only knew that their ring was being sold.
So this became his mission. He buys class rings and, using the dates, initials, and school names, reunites them with their owners.
When I find an owner, I always tell them, you know what, I don't want nothing in return. It's on me. Because I hope that one day somebody's going to call me and say, hey, Richard, I found your class ring.
He only asks that they post a picture on his Facebook page. Class rings bought to reunite to rightful owners. So far, he's found 49 rings.
The day that I find them, like, I get goosebumps because I'm like, yes.
Back in Lake St. Louis, Jackie is overwhelmed.
It truly is very, very interesting what this gentleman does. And I'm grateful. He has a kind soul.
So how much did Richard pay for her ring?
$3.25.
And 42 years later, it still fits. Sort of.
It fits my pinky.
Richard's Facebook page, dedicated to helping people reunite with their class rings, has more than 4,400 members, and we've provided a link to that Facebook group on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News. A couple of dogs will begin calling the White House home today. We're going to look at the impact that could have on animal shelters across the country. Plus, how a pair of massive pythons were rescued in southern India. We'll have the latest, but first, it's 5:37.
Low to mid 50s with gradually building cloud cover for our Wednesday. Wind's going to pick up, come in 15 to 20 miles an hour, but it will do so out of the south, which means very, very mild temperatures, especially when we talk about overnights, as we'll be able to stay well above the freezing point. Bottom of your screen, little rain moves in from Texas into Oklahoma and Arkansas, stays to our far southern counties, skirts around us right there. Anything we do see is going to be light and south of I-44. Then we can actually roll back-to-back days in the 50s for Wednesday and Thursday before we cool down a little bit and hit the 40s as we head into the weekend. We'll be right back with World Watch right after this.
Dear Winter, I'm coming. My squad of 15 vehicles with all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive is ready to take you on. Safety's the name of my game, so you
Good Wednesday morning. Michael Hayslip with you in the Skywatch Weather Center. Kind of a nice January day on tap here, even with the gradually building cloud cover. Still able to make it up into the 50s, and that's thanks in part to a steady southerly breeze that we'll have. It'll gust up to 30 miles per hour. Now, can't hurt, but tell you what, overnight, how about that? Able to skirt around that freezing mark. Love that. 50s on Thursday before we cool down for the weekend.
Topping World Watch, China is under fire for not acting quicker to contain the COVID-19 outbreak. The criticism comes as the country works to contain a growing number of cases. Ian Lee reports from London.
This is what China wanted the world to see as the coronavirus began to spread 1 year ago. The epicenter, Wuhan, in lockdown. But an independent panel is slamming Beijing for initially dragging its feet, saying public health measures could have been applied more forcefully by local and national health authorities in China in January. Once Chinese officials discovered the virus, it took more than a month to enforce the lockdown. By that time, COVID-19 had already spread to Japan, South Korea, and the United States. The panel also blames the World Health Organization for not declaring an international emergency sooner. WHO scientists are in China to investigate the origins of the virus. The U.S. is pushing for transparency and access, but there's doubt Beijing will allow it. Several countries, including the U.S. and Australia, accuse China of shrouding the outbreak in secrecy. But China dismisses the criticism, arguing it took decisive action and was the first country to sound the alarm about the pandemic. Ian Lee, CBS News.
China has fared better than most countries during the pandemic. Last year, it was the only major economy to grow. A group of Honduran migrants have given up on their journey to the United States and decided to take buses or patrols to return to Honduras. The Guatemalan Migration Institute reported this Tuesday that from January 14th to the 18th, some 2,000 migrants have returned to Honduras. In that same period, 955 were referred to immigration authorities. Italy's police recovered a 16th century copy of Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi, the world's most expensive painting. The painting was stolen from a museum in Naples. According to a police statement, the artwork was discovered at an apartment during a search in the Italian city. The portrait was modeled on Leonardo's famed depiction of Christ with one hand raised in blessing and the other holding a crystal orb. Numerous copies of the work were made during the artist's lifetime by his students and assistants. Snake catchers in southern India jumped into action to rescue a pair of massive pythons that were caught in an excavator. A handful of snake catchers say they worked for nearly 4 hours on Monday to remove the 7-foot-long snake from the machine. During the ordeal, they rescued a second snake that became caught inside the excavator's engine. Rescues like this are common in India, as the nation is home to a large python population. Pythons are regarded as the world's largest non-venomous snake. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
How does Da Vinci end up in an apartment?
It was stolen.
No, I know. You just, like, you have guests over, and they're like, it's a nice Da Vinci you got hanging up there. Thank you. Thank you.
I wonder if it was
In
on
my
display
apartment.
or if it was, like, you know, hidden under the bed or in the closet.
Under the couch. No, under the couch. Absolutely. You stick it under the couch.
It was one of those hide-a-bed couches, and they like slid it under the mattress and just
pulls
folded
it
up in
out.
the couch.
He's like, hey, did you guys check it out? I got a Da Vinci. And he just sticks it back under the couch.
Yep.
Oh, man. All right, KOAM News Now Facebook page and our Something to Talk About this morning on the KOAM News Now Instapoll. President Trump scheduled to depart the White House this morning, a flight to Florida, and of course he will do so on board Air Force One. Our question to you, how do you think history will remember the presidency of Donald Trump? We'll start our comments off with Ed Batchelder. Ed says, all depends on who writes the history books. Richard Shirley says, if it's anything like past presidents, in a couple years the media will rehab his image like they did with Clinton and George W. and further back. Jim Armstrong says he wrote and tarnished his legacy. Too bad he could have done something special, just did not know how to lead and support the people positively. Sad for the country. And Rhett Berry says one thing is for sure. He got a lot of things done that others couldn't seem to do. As far as our Instapoll this morning, you go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Right now, we've got 45% of you saying that the history books will remember his presidency as favorably. And we'll keep up with your comments and your results as we roll through the show. Come back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Unprecedented security is in place in Washington, D.C. for today's inauguration. Shortly before noon, Joe Biden will be sworn in as the nation's 46th president, right after Kamala Harris makes history as the country's first ever female vice president. Unlike past inaugurations, the National Mall will be mostly empty for today's ceremony, due in part to security concerns following the assault on the Capitol. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation released new details on a death investigation out of Arcadia, Kansas. On January 13th, Crawford County deputies received a tip about a body at the Arcadia house of 37-year-old Nicholas Carrillo. When deputies found a body on the property, Carrillo ran. He was found 2 days later on January 15th and arrested on drug charges. Authorities say the body belongs to Derek Ewell of Kansas City, Missouri, who was reported missing, and that the death happened at a hotel in Kansas City. Carrillo is now charged with criminal desecration of a body. A Vinita, Oklahoma man is charged with domestic assault after police say he intentionally drove his car off the road with his family inside. 35-year-old Kevin Hyben is charged with 4 counts of first-degree domestic assault. According to the Missouri Highway Patrol, on January 6th, Hyben, his wife, and 3 kids were in a car on Jute Road, 5 miles north of Seneca. Authorities say Hyben then deliberately drove the vehicle off the road and into a tree, injuring everyone inside, some of them seriously. Ottawa County residents hit a roadblock when trying to schedule COVID-19 vaccine appointments. Some Oklahomans say they have not been able to schedule appointments for their second dose of COVID-19 vaccine on the state's web portal. Deputy Commissioner of Health Keith Reed says the department is adding appointments as vaccines come in, but availability will continue to be low as vaccines continue to trickle into the state. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Shaping up to be a pretty good looking Wednesday. Even with the gradual building cloud cover, still going to see temperatures that are able to make it up into the 50s. Our big change from where we start this morning to where we end up the day is certainly going to be our wind. First off, it's going to shift on us, and we're in the process of going through that right now. But eventually, it's going to move in from the south, and it's going to increase and gust up to about 30 miles per hour. That being said, we're able to avoid any high wind advisories, red flag warnings, anything of that nature. Even though it's going to be pretty dry outside, just be careful if you do decide that you got to burn some brush or something like that. Now, overnight, you can't beat this. We stay well above the freezing mark, and that's really a key factor, especially when we talk about what's going to develop down to the south of us. Because we've got rain that's moving out of Texas right now. As it makes its way across the Red River and up through Oklahoma, we got a chance for it to skirt some of our far southern counties. But once again, because our temperatures aren't going to be too bad, we'll be able just to keep it as rain. And so as it moves through late Wednesday into early Thursday, really it doesn't intensify until it gets across the other side of the Mississippi. And then Thursday is clearing off, more sunshine, all the way back up into the 50s. Backside of that, a little cold front dropping in. Don't worry about any of that rain down to the south right there. It won't affect us on Friday. But it is going to certainly feel like it's late January once again for Friday and Saturday as we hit the 40s. Now, Saturday into Sunday, that's where we're looking at some more widespread rain, certainly more widespread than what we're looking at for tonight into tomorrow morning. And then perhaps a little wintry mix headed our way on Monday. All the latest for you on the Skywatch weather app.
As the Bidens move into their new address today at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, they'll be joined by their trusty canine companions. Champ and Major will be the first 4-legged residents in the White House since Bo and Sonny moved out in January of 2017. Well, dogs have historically been the most popular presidential pet. However, that means other animals have served our country as presidential pets. Take Ophelia Bush, a Texas Longhorn from the most recent Bush administration. Yep, that's right. Or Sox Clinton. Here he is answering questions about the 1995 budget crisis. Makes sense. Go way back and you can learn about Woodrow Wilson's sheep and how they helped to take care of the front yard. But it does pose the question, what do Champ and Major bring to the table? Well, for Champ, setting up shop on Pennsylvania Avenue is nothing too new. He served his country as the first go-around while parents were vice president and second lady. However, Major is the new guy on the block, and while he's not the first adopted dog to live in the White House, he is the first shelter dog to do so. We asked Teresa Smith with the Carthage Humane Society if it means anything to her, and her response, absolutely.
It doesn't matter who a person is. Then when they take on a rescue dog, they've helped many different people at that time besides that animal. Our goal is to make sure every animal leaves our shelter healthy in good health, and we check out all of our potential homes where they go into, and it makes it exciting because it means that somebody went out there and got a dog that might have had problems or might not have been in the loving situation that they deserve to have. So we're real excited.
Well, the impact something like this can and will have on animal shelters across the country really can't be understated. On Sunday, an inauguration was held for the German Shepherd by the Delaware Humane Association, and it raised $200,000 for the shelter in the process. That's amazing. Coming up in our next half hour, we'll learn about an opportunity that the Carthage Humane Society has this morning and how you can be a part of it. We'll be right back.
We got some wind chill numbers that have dropped as low as 15 in Nevada and Stockton, 18 in Independence and Neodesha. So it is a chilly Wednesday morning. Now we got cloud cover down to the south and out to the west. Central, northern portions remain clear. And it's not going to be a bad day. We're going to have to fight that wind all day long, 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting 30 to 35. And partly sunny to start, then we got the gradual cloud cover building up. Still able to make it up into the 50s, so I mean, you can't complain about that. And then overnight, very mild temperatures, thanks in part to that cloud cover. Kind of trapping in whatever heat that we do get. For tonight, see a little rain work in far southern counties. Everything stays south of I-44, then kind of dives off. We'll go mostly sunny on Thursday, back up into the 50s, then an additional cold front just in time for the weekend. Puts us down for the 40s for Friday and Saturday.